Hello, my name is Vivian Nwakah, and I am the founder of MedZaf. MedZaf is a pharmaceutical marketplace that connects hospitals and pharmacies to qualified suppliers of medications and consumables. And we use data and analytics as well as technology to increase access, affordability, and quality of medications. And we launched in Nigeria back in 2017 with a small group of about 15 to 20 hospitals and pharmacies in the Lagos area. As of today, we work with over 250 unique hospitals, pharmacies, clinics across now 15 states. And this year for us, even in this middle of uncertainty and the pandemic, is a year about preparing for expansion, not only across Nigeria and deeper into more underserved areas of Nigeria, but also along the across West Africa, and then the rest of Africa. And our goal at the end of the day is to be one platform that facilitates and finances the movement of medications, creating a transparency and an ease of doing business that improves the work of all healthcare stakeholders to give good quality care to the people. And so I think that, this topic is really interesting, because it was in this very hard journey of trying to figure out, how I could be of service, how I could create a massive impact for people, and how I could, differentiate myself professionally in order to reach some of my goals. That is how I stumbled upon this opportunity, and where I am right now. So when I think about the journey, I can kind of talk a little bit more about MedZaf's journey, and then also, my own journey. I came to Nigeria about almost 8 years ago now. I had never been to Nigeria before. I had never been to sub-Saharan Africa. And, I came to Nigeria during a business internship that I was supposed to complete in 3 months, and then head back to Chicago, where I grew up and where I'm from, and then, move on with my life and close out the business school chapter. And when I got to Nigeria, it was, honestly, really shocking to me. It was a really, big experience for me because, I saw so many things that I felt like there were solutions for as it pertains to problems that I had seen in other parts of the world. And I was always questioning, okay, well, why are the roads this way? Why can't we fix the roads? Why are we using generators? Why are generators a thing? I had so many why questions. And I went on this journey of trying to meet as many people as possible to just kind of ask why. And I remember the feeling of frustration at that point in my life, because every time I would ask a why question, or why can't we do this, or let's do that, people would say the same phrase: this is Nigeria. Things have always been that way. There's no way to fix this issue. It just is what it is. We pray for the best. I'd say is overall, the sentiment that I would get from people when I would question why things were the way that they were. And, personally, I felt that, I came to this country to be part of a solution, to, be part of Africa Rising, to be part of creating impact for my own people, and all Black people, across Africa. That was the grand vision in my mind. And so when I, had that thought that I could potentially be part of something much, much bigger than me that could impact, millions and millions of people, I knew that I had to be really strong in distinguishing myself following my gut, and being true to my, just my internal compass if I ever wanted to be successful at anything that fits within this grand vision. So I think that when we talk about the concept of distinguishing yourself, it isn't just about, just being different or doing something better just because you want other people to recognize you. I think it really is about, taking that time to focus inwards and have a real in-depth analysis of who you really are and what you really believe and what your morals and your values and what you hold dear are, and understanding your boundaries of what you will do and what you won't do as it pertains to your life. And so backtracking a little bit, I had gone through, this deep soul searching exercise before I had come to Nigeria. I went and kind of backpacked in different countries and really took the time to be by myself and listen to my thoughts and try to figure out what I wanted to do in life. So by the time I came to Nigeria, I was pretty clear about who I was, what I wanted to achieve, and where I was going. I just didn't know what I would focus on specifically. And so if you're looking to distinguish yourself from others, or, find a way to have innovation be, your culture and what you bring to your day to day, I do think it takes a level of introspection to first understand where are you going and who are you. That was the first most important piece that I landed in Lagos with. And then the next thing was, to have empathy. So I remember I remember my first shower in Lagos, the first night that I landed, and I remember the power going off in the middle of me taking a shower. I'd heard this noise. To me, it sounded like a hurricane alarm, which I grew up in the Midwest of the United States. So, I'd been through that before, hurricanes, and it sounded like this hurricane was about to start, and then everything was black and I was covered in soap. And I just remember in that moment, just being confused as to what was happening. And obviously they were changing over the generator, right? That was my first experience with that. But I remember that experience of not taking a shower and having the lights go out, the power go out. I just remember sitting there and thinking, well, if the power goes out multiple times a day, and sometimes even days at a time, if I'm a student and I'm trying to study, if I'm trying to learn something, how do I go about doing that if I'm from a family that potentially can't afford a generator, or from in a place where maybe the electricity grid is particularly poor? How can I have a consistent a positive learning environment if I'm a kid? And that's what I was thinking. That's what was in the back of my head. How do you quantify the potential loss of people's lives due to power just going out? And it was from that empathy that, even though it wasn't ever something I was used to, I personally didn't understand, what it means to grow up without consistent power. But I could really just put myself in the shoes of someone else and think how it could potentially deny me the opportunities to succeed and be very successful. And so my first company in Nigeria was all about bringing renewable energy solutions to Nigeria. So it was from that empathy, that I said, okay, here's a path. I know what my values are. I know I want to make this massive impact, and I know what my values are. And here's a problem that I see in society that I think I can give some value to. And so I think, when we talk about innovation culture and distinguishing yourself, again, It's about, I think it needs to come from a place of empathy first. So this is all back in 2013, 2014 now. I'm deep into trying to build a solar company. And I remember going to some of the banks. So we got a great opportunities to sit down with board members of some of the popular banks at the time. And I remember sitting in this board meeting where some of the bankers were telling me that solar doesn't work in Nigeria because we have special air. So I had just been in Germany where, I saw, you fly into a city like Munich or Frankfurt, you see solar panels on everyone's homes. You see this, kind of mass adoption of solar energy as a way to augment power. And you look at the conditions of Germany, which is can be cloudy and have issues with sunlight. And then you look at Nigeria, which is this amazing space of sun being so close to the equator, and you just wonder, so how is it possible that solar is impossible in Nigeria, which is what everyone was telling us at the time. So, just to kind of go back to innovation culture and distinguishing yourself. Here I'm just a recent business school grad at the time. I've done some things in the past and built a company before, but I'm sitting in a room with board members of one of the largest banks in the country. And they're telling me that solar cannot exist in a Nigerian context. But I know that deep in my heart to be false, right? And so I think part of distinguishing yourself from others and being able to thrive or bring about an innovation culture is just being really sure of yourself, right? Being really strong in yourself and being able to stand up to others in power that may or may not agree with you. And so in that meeting, I was very adamant about the fact that solar could actually work in Nigeria. And, so I was able to raise my hand in a board meeting full of men. I'm the only woman there. I'm barely just in Nigeria for a couple of months now. And I can raise my hand and I can take on a board member of a bank because I'm very sure of myself, and so I think that's also part of this whole thing is, having an unshakable belief in yourself. Your core values and the direction where you're going and how everything fits within that direction. You've identified an opportunity, but you really have to be strong in yourself. Otherwise, someone can say that your dream of bringing uninterrupted power to Africa or Nigerians isn't possible because solar doesn't work in Nigeria, right? So that was back in 2013. We tried, we worked, we tried, we brought across some, large partnerships from South Africa to help build, this solar opportunity in Nigeria. And the reality is that it failed. This is now we're fast forwarding a little bit into 2014-ish. The Naira to the dollar has fallen. I'm knocking on the doors of these big companies and trying to sell them a solution that maybe has a 7 or 10-year payoff. And what I didn't understand at the moment was that they are thinking about, how are we going to get this company through the year? How are we going to get the company through the next 2 years? They're not thinking about 7 or 15-year payoffs or whatever it was at that time. And so, part also about distinguishing yourself from others and, creating a culture of innovation is not being afraid to fail. I had come to the country and decided to stay because I thought that, I could be part of, this movement that would bring, a solution to Nigeria's power problem. And it failed. And I felt, definitely felt like a failure in the sense that I wasn't able to achieve this goal. And, but instead of, kind of giving up or getting down on myself, I knew that I had to just keep moving on. And I think, interestingly enough, now I see companies, solar companies, I see, some of the ideas that I had back in 2013, 2014 being implemented here in Nigeria. And companies are raising money and actually getting, being really successful in the solar space. It's still very hard, but someone cracked it. And so that, gives me hope that even though I may not be part of that journey anymore, at least it's still moving forward, right? So not being afraid of failure, I think is extremely important when it comes to distinguishing yourself from others and creating, being innovative. You can't, because the way that my mentality works is that if I fail at something, or quote unquote, then I've got a ton of learning lessons from this experience. And in fact, that solar experience, setting up the company, signing all the legal documents, bringing foreign engineers into the country, sitting down and speaking with all of the various clients, the various companies that we worked with to try to bring together the solution, getting out there into the ecosystem, starting to go to some of the tech events to get ideas about what I'm going to do for solar and starting to talk to people, other entrepreneurs along that journey, all created the framework for MedZaf, right? I took from every single learning lesson, every experience of trying to build a solar company in Nigeria, I took all of those lessons and brought them into the building of MedZaf. And if I hadn't have done those things before, I might not have ever been able to really get MedZaf off the ground because the circumstances were unique and, the support was much less for MedZaf than it would have been for the solar company. So again, the mentality that you've got to have is that, yeah, there's going to be times where you win and it's great to win. But the times that you fail, if you can learn from that, you can turn everything into a win, into a personal win. And that's kind of how I feel about my whole life. All of the negative things that have happened to me, I'm constantly just trying to understand the learning lesson in that so that I can grow and expand as a person and, be able to, to just move forward. So yeah, I failed at starting solar in Nigeria, but that experience helped me, to create MedZaf. So now, going back to empathy, throughout the entire time that I'm living in Nigeria at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm working on solar and I'm dedicated to that, but the healthcare, what's going on in healthcare? Early on, a friend of mine died from taking a fake malaria pill. And I had never heard of anything like that. Like the concept of, someone getting sick because of a medication that they took, I didn't understand it at all. And it was devastating. And I felt a deep sense of shame and embarrassment for not even realizing that was a reality of, of Nigeria or Africa or emerging markets. I just felt a deep sense of shame around that. I had worked in healthcare before I came to Nigeria. I helped start up home healthcare agencies. And I think what always stuck with me with the healthcare company in the US is that we've got all these elderly patients, They're 90s, 100 years old, and they've lived good lives. And so our job is to keep them alive. But they've been able to live really good lives. And, we are, expending a lot of effort and care, to extend that life. And so then when I came to Nigeria and I saw that someone that wasn't even 30, if I'm correct, can die from something that is probably so preventable, probably wasn't anything major, that wouldn't have even required any type of hospitalization. That to me was it was really sad, and again, not to just focus on the negative piece of that. It was like, okay, well, what can be done about that? Because that's not fair. And so from out of that empathy came this call to action. And MedZap's motto is quality medication is a fundamental human right. And in that moment that I started to learn about the issues within pharmaceutical industry, what kept going through my head was quality medication is a fundamental human right. What are our human rights as people? And why can't the value of the Nigerian life be worth something more, right? So those thoughts were just going through my head as I started to put the pieces of MedZap together. So I think, so when I go back to that time, as I've started this call, this time with you guys, I told you that MedZap's goal is to be a platform, a global platform that's facilitating and financing the movement of medication around the world. I want to be a global company. But I didn't start out with that concept, right? That wasn't what I started out with. I started out with just being really curious about the problem. So to go back to distinguishing yourself from others and an innovation culture, empathy is a part of it. But then how do you find what you're going to be interested in is by having a deep sense of curiosity, right? Because at that point in time, I'm not a pharmacist, and I haven't lived in Nigeria for more than a couple of years at that point. I didn't think I could build a pharmaceutical company. That wasn't in my mind. I was in the solar business, but I was just curious. So, I used some of my connections in the U.S. Medical space. My sister and I, we set up a distribution company in the U.S. in Chicago, and I sold her on that idea, and we were thinking at that time, let's just call these pharmaceutical companies and let's figure out, what's their problem with getting their medications and their products to Nigeria. And as I'm calling through, and my sister and I are calling through, all of these pharmaceutical companies, they have a very specific and the same problem, the same story every time that I'm speaking to them. And I said, wow, this seems like this is a big problem to global pharma, And so it was that realization that, hey, there's this big problem. These massive corporations actually have a huge problem as it pertains to pharmaceutical in Nigeria. Maybe I'm going to keep following this. And then I got curious about, okay, how can I bring something into the country? So that's where, I got acquainted with NAFDAC and regulatory bodies. And that's how I started to learn more about, others' experiences with working through registering medications and products and bringing things in. And this is all, I'm doing this on the side because I'm just really curious to understand this and research this. Then we started to, we get it. We're realizing that, there's a massive problem. And so now we're going to hospitals and pharmacies and we're asking them questions. And so it was just a series of questions and being really curious and being really sure that this problem or fixing this problem actually fits within my core values and goals as an entrepreneur, and that potentially I could be part of a solution of helping fix this problem. So now solar company is winding down. I'm still in the power space, but now I've got a little bit more time to think about what would become MedZaf. And I think one of the other things that helped me at that time, this is now about 2015, 2016, is that I knew what the problem was. I had spent a year or two, almost 2 years now, researching this problem and testing the system to understand everybody's pain points, right? Because I have an empathy for everyone's pain and I want to solve it. So I've been researching now. I've been going through the process of trying to think of people's pain and how we could help. And I knew that I was going to now build a company to solve this issue within the pharmaceutical space. And I'm going to tech events and I'm listening and I'm learning the history of, Conga and Jumia and the telecoms and, all the foundational work that's been built by the telecoms to make it easier for there to potentially be e-commerce solutions and using technology to move products from point A to point B. So now I recognize that this is an important time in history for a country like Nigeria, because all of the opportunity, all of the conditions are ripe for disruption using technology. And in this case, I'm focused on the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm researching and realizing that there really isn't any company that is solving the issue in the way that I am perceiving the issue to be. And I knew that around 2016, 2015, 2016, that whatever I did with MedZaf, whatever we did with this company was going to be new, that it would be not really done before, and that people wouldn't actually understand it because it's not the norm of the industry. So again, going back to innovation culture and distinguishing yourself from others, I had to be really strong in who I am, because everybody was telling me that what I was trying to build, MedZaf, was impossible. The pharmacies, people in the pharmacies would say that's not going to work. Everyone say hospitals will not go online. They will not use technology. People would say pharmacies are just not going to use the tech. It just isn't ever going to work. And that was all I kept hearing at that time. But because I was so strong and sure of who I am, I kept talking about the concept of MedZaf to everybody. And, I would just talk about it wherever I went. And it started to become, just something I would just focus on, and from that, the early, people who came to help MedZaf grow and become, they, kind of joined the project because I was speaking about it, and so that's, I think, an important piece of distinguishing yourself from others and innovation culture is that if you just take a step to start something and it's good and it fits within your core values and your goal, and you show there's a commitment to it, people will join you. So early on, there were key people who joined MedZaf journey, to help because they really believed in the mission. Quality medication is a fundamental human right. They could get behind that goal. And even though nobody had done what we were trying to do before, and the concept was not normal as a tech startup, people were not talking about it. I was able to get people to join MedZaf because they could get around the cause. And so now, let's fast forward to like 2016, the end of 2016, MedZaf is a thing. We're We're a registered company in the US. We're registered in Nigeria. We have our first employees. We have a C-suite team of people who have joined, to become part of this mission. And we just launched in January of 2017. And we had one customer, really. A shout out to one of the best clinics in the country of Nigeria, Paleon Memorial, run by Dr. Onya, who is like a mentor and just a massive forward-thinking healthcare practitioner. So she allowed us to come in there, ask her team so many questions, but then when it came time to work, she was the first one to say, yes, we will work with MedZaf, and so also just kind of remembering that, creating something only takes one person. It takes one step. I didn't say, I'm not going to start this company unless we have 100 hospitals purchasing from us today. I said, let's start with one, let's start with one and just put one foot in front of the other. I started MedZaf in my living room, and I remember all the original team members and people would just come to my living room, and that's where we had our meetings, and that's where we started the company, the conceptualization of the company. I didn't say I needed to have a nice, shiny office in order to start. Let's just get together at a coffee shop. Let's get together in our rooms and do something. So that's an important piece about, kind of really doing, creating something big is just starting from somewhere. And so now it's January 2017, and we don't really have that much money, but we're fundraising now. And, I'm reaching out to people that I've worked with in the past. I'm reaching out to people who I think, have been really successful, and I'm starting to raise money for MedZaf. And, again, the perception I think about raising money is that you get maybe 3 or 4 investors, and they give you a check, and then you get started, or that money comes in immediately. With MedZaf, that wasn't the case. We were getting $5K check here, USD, 5,000 here, 10,000 there, 20,000 there, and to be honest, like the checks were just coming every month. So as we were growing MedZaf, we've got one customer, now we've got 5, now we got 10, now we got 15. We didn't actually really know whether we were going to live the next month because we didn't have any money. So, again, but because, I was very sure about myself and really strong in, what I believe. And I just knew that we would be okay. And we were. I think today MedZaf has raised almost $3 million if we think about just a couple of fundraisers that we've done. And, I think I'm probably one of 50, 100 Black women in the world to have raised that much money for their own startup. But again, it started with just a really strong conviction of one thing, that this is a problem worth solving, and that we can use technology and data analytics to disrupt the market, to do something in a new way, a better way that makes pharmaceuticals products safer and more affordable for the average person, right? I was very clear on that. And then guess what? The resources start to come. Especially when your customers start to, really recognize what you're doing. They're recognizing the hard work that we're doing, and they're coming on board. Slowly but surely, they're coming on board, and things continue to get easier and easier and easier as we grow and build a good name for ourselves and build a brand. The brand MedZaf means quality. It means we're going to do the best that we possibly can to help you or help a hospital or a pharmacy with their procurement. And so, again, innovation, culture, and distinguishing yourself from others, you just have to really have a strong conviction in what you're doing and where you're going, and the resources and the, things will come. So that's a huge learning lesson for me. And then now, if I want to talk about some of just the other pieces of building the momentum, as MedZap is growing bigger and bigger, we're having growing pains. We're going through things internally that are extremely hard. And so the startup journey is not a rosy story. It's a story of strife and hard work, long hours, heart palpitations and problems. But it's also a story where your customers and the people's lives the people who you're impacting will feed you with the strength to kind of continue on and to keep getting better and to keep going. And that's definitely MedZap's story. It hasn't been so easy for us, right? Back in 2017, we would go to these hospitals and pharmacies with a laptop and try to get the customers to use the MedZap platform. But what we also realized is that we had to also teach people how to use Excel. We had to go back to the basics, actually. We had to build a database first. We had to build, an identification system for these medications. There's a lot of the foundational things that we actually had to build ourselves that if we were in a US context or a European context, we could just plug into an already existing system and build on top of that. But for MedZap, we had to go back to the very basics and build the foundation ourselves. Logistics, at that time, there weren't really any logistics players that, could really handle delivering these medications in a way that met our standards. So I had to build a fleet of drivers. I had never done that before. At that time, our hospitals and pharmacies were paying with checks. They're paying with cash. So now we've got to move them or figure out how to create a company that can scale with cash and with checks that you have to pick up physically and get multiple stakeholders to sign, and so we had to come up with some solutions to augment that. And so, the learning lesson from that period of time is that even though we're very clear on the mission, even though we're so clear on the mission, we still have to, kind of augment, the vision. We still have to support the vision with the very basics until we can get to a place where, we can really create this scalable product. So just because you think or dream something in the beginning doesn't mean that's what it's going to end up looking like. It's going to change, but the core values or the core decision is still the same. So, so now we're in a reality where, again, MedZap, especially during COVID-19, we were able to scale to additional states that I haven't been for months or years. We get able to get customers to purchase from MedZap, remotely in the middle of a pandemic. People were coming to us and able to get their medications in a really good time. That wouldn't have been possible in 2017. So sometimes you just have to have patience and build the infrastructure and build the solution so that it actually is solving the pain points of others. And then all of a sudden, an event like COVID-19, accelerates the adoption to the innovation that you're providing. And that was the experience of MedZap. It comes from within. That's all. The innovation comes from within you. Distinguishing yourself comes from within you. And it has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with you leaning into your own personal power and creating something that fits in line with your own values, your morals, your goals, your dreams, and being true to that. That's where distinguishing yourself from others comes. That's where innovation comes. It comes from within you. So that is how I would like to leave off this kind of journey through my own experience coming to Nigeria and staying in Nigeria a lot longer than 3 months to try to be part of improving the improvement of Africa as a whole. So thank you all for your time and for listening to me, and really appreciate it. And best of luck to everybody out there, because we definitely we need all the prayers and luck. So thank you.